Anonymous is a decentralized collective of activists and hacktivists who are known for their use of online protests, direct action, and hacktivism to promote freedom of speech, government transparency, and individual privacy. The group is known for their iconic Guy Fawkes masks and their slogan, "We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us." Anonymous first gained notoriety in the early 2000s and have since been involved in numerous high-profile operations. The group operates without a formal hierarchy, and members typically communicate using online forums and encrypted messaging platforms. While Anonymous has been linked to various activities, the group has also been involved in numerous acts of online activism. The lack of a formal structure means that anyone can claim to be a member of Anonymous, and the group's actions are often carried out by loosely affiliated individuals and groups. One of the most interesting leaks was that of the inner workings of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, with the members saying that files that have been obtained by them via hacking and also through declassified networks, and it shows that NASA is very much involved in the search for advanced life forms and that they have proof that they have made some sort of contact, and note that the space agency is keeping this from the general public. It's important to note that NASA, the government, and other space agencies have denied these claims, and note that they have never found anything that suggests that advanced life forms are out there. However, Anonymous have said that they have found proof to counter this. One of the members said the following: "Our civilization is on the verge of discovering evidence of alien life in the cosmos. Taking into account all of the different activities and missions that are specifically searching for evidence of alien life, we are on the verge of making one of the most profound and unprecedented discoveries in history." End quote. Another member said the following: "We have obtained files that back up what others have been saying. We are not claiming to be the ones who originally discovered this information, but upon seeing it, our goal has now become clear. We need to get this out to as many people as possible and show them that we are part of something much bigger and that we need to start having more open discussions about our place in the universe." End quote. Anonymous said that discussions are starting to reach a wider audience, and that now we should start listening to those who have encountered these mysterious aircrafts, saying that NASA have been aware of these for a very long time, and that those who have tried to get this information out there are usually stopped. Professionals have long tried to tell their stories about some of the strange things they've encountered, and this includes people like military personnel, and even those within Congress, who have long talked about an advanced threat that has been detected across our entire planet. The reason these things are labeled as a threat is due to their capabilities, and not because they've necessarily done things that have harmed humans. Many have made the connections between these announcements and that of Gary McKinnon. In 1983, when Gary McKinnon was just 17 years old, he went to his local cinema in North London to see a new movie called War Games. In the movie, a computer genius hacks into a Pentagon network. The movie had a big impression on Gary, and it got him thinking maybe he could be a hacker too. Coupled with his interest in science fiction and mysterious aircrafts, his passion for hacking was only ever going to lead him in one direction. Between February 2001 and March 2002, Gary McKinnon was able to hack into United States computer networks, where he allegedly uncovered a whole host of information that would land him in deep water, facing possible extradition to the United States. So, the question is, what information did he expose? McKinnon claimed he had managed to gain access to NASA websites, and in an interview with Rich Planet TV, claimed to have found information relating to advanced flying aircrafts and advanced life forms. He claimed to have seen an Excel sheet which had the ranks and names of unknown people, as well as another sheet which had tabs for material transfers between ships. He tried to do some research on the names of the ships, around 8 to 10 in total, but was unable to find any more information relating to any of them. None of these ships were public knowledge, which led him to believe that they were either secret projects or part of a non-terrestrial United States initiative. McKinnon stated the following: "It was not a typical thing in the military at all, so I took that to mean that they probably have a secret space-based program." End quote. Interestingly, just 17 years later, the United States Space Force was established. The United States Space Force is a branch of the United States Armed Forces that was established on December 20th, 2019, with the signing of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2020. The creation of the Space Force marked the first time since 1947 that a new branch of the United States military had been established. The Space Force was established as a separate branch of the military to organize, train, and equip military personnel for space operations and to develop space capabilities for use by the United States military and other national security organizations. Its creation was driven by concerns over the increasing militarization of space by other nations. The Space Force is responsible for a wide range of space-related operations, including missile warning, satellite operations, and space surveillance. Gary gained access to these top-secret documents through a program called Land Search. After obtaining control over the domain, he had the capability to search all the files and folders on every machine. Many who followed Gary's story said that many of the things he said back then are now being proven. At the end of February 2022, Gary went on Reddit and didn't ask me anything. This is where members of Reddit can reach out and ask Gary any questions they have. He said the following: "Hi, I'm Gary McKinnon. I'll make this brief, but there are some things I feel it's important to point out, so you know where I'm coming from. Apologies for not doing a live video response. I have a couple of commercial projects on the go that prohibit me from doing audio and video in relation to my story, and thanks to Reddit for inviting me to do this as me anything. I was arrested in March 2002 for hacking into various government and military networks in America, looking for evidence of mysterious flying aircrafts and free energy. It wasn't a clever hack. No fragmented packets to bypass firewalls or any of the glossy stuff. I had a specific intention, and, like any good system administrator, which I was at the time, I wanted a simple process that would catch basic weaknesses, sometimes network-wide, with a simple script and a little creativity. It was cracking more than hacking. Like any system admin knows, the laziest solution is often the best. In my effort to find solid proof that the government and military knew about these crafts, I followed information found in a book by the Disclosure Project. In the book, Donna Hare, who was a NASA launch photographic specialist, said that in Building 8 of Johnson Space Center, there was a lab set aside for airbrushing out mysterious flying aircrafts from high-res satellite imagery. The tool I wrote scanned for local administrator accounts on Windows PCs. It was written in Perl and scanned a Class B in 8 minutes, the low latency due to me running the scan on an already compromised machine on the same or another government military network. I found Building 8 by reading the comment sections of the PCs via the command console. These fields are used for auditing, and luckily NASA filled them all in, so I knew which PCs were in Building 8. There weren't many machines in Building 8, but one of the first I looked at had folders called Raw and Processed, or Raw and Cleaned or Filtered. The images averaged around 250 megabytes, and would have taken a long time at 5 minutes per megabyte on a 56,000 modem. So having remote control of the PC via a program called Remotely Anywhere, I decided to view it live on the desktop, which was risky since they work odd hours at NASA. The image was coming down very slowly via the Java-based Remotely Anywhere program, so I cut the color to 4-bit, 16 colors and shades, and the lowest resolution, which was 640 by 480. I think it may even have been 320 by 240. The image slowly filled the screen and I could see blackness, superimposed upon which was a blue-white planet, and superimposed on that was a tubular form that was metallic white and had domes around its central circumference and at its ends. This thing had no rivets or seams and looked futuristic, though of course with the low res and number of shades in the image, detail was lacking. This was my eureka moment. Donna Hare's lab was still in existence. I was waiting for this image to come down and planning on the fastest way to get all of the other images to me, and right when I was making my plans, I saw the mouse cursor move to the bottom right of the screen, right-click the network icon, and choose Disconnect. I'd been caught and disconnected, missing my chance to grab even a single image. I never did any intentional or accidental damage, and as far as I know I'm not a vandal, but I did leave stupid messages about disrupting their sense of security. My family and I then fought my possible extradition to America for 10 years, finally winning the case in 2012. I know this is an old story, and not too widely publicized in America at the time, so I apologize that there's nothing new, though hopefully interesting questions will result in interesting answers. Let me tell you what happened to me in 2006. I had only one odd Men in Black encounter that happened to me, apart from being followed by the same van for 2 hours one time across England. I lived in a bedsit at the time, being unemployed due to my ongoing case, which is one room in a shared house. I was on the first floor, one story up if you're American. My lady and I had gone to bed on my fold-out sofa. I think we fell asleep around midnight. I woke up out of a really deep sleep, so I'm thinking it must have been around 2 or 3 in the morning. I was woken up by a really sharp pain in my left heel, so sharp that I jolted awake and reached down to my foot to see what it was, whereupon I was forced to sleep again. It was like going under general anesthetic, uncomfortable and unwilling. So I went from painful shock to instant sleep. In the morning, the first thing I thought of was the pain in my heel. I looked at my foot, and it turned out I'd gone to bed with my socks on, and there were 2 holes in the sock on my heel. I removed the sock and found 2 perfectly round holes in my heel, each around 5 millimeters in diameter, and one with a perfectly circular flap of skin still hanging from it, like someone had done me with a miniature paper hole punch. I can't explain that to this day, and can only assume it's a chip. I've had tri-field meters on it. I made a super-sensitive magnetometer that showed nothing, but 2 lumps did grow on the heel in the months following the event, and they have now moved around to the inside of the foot. Interestingly, in recent years, NASA has come forward and talked about these mysterious aircrafts, with NASA's new chief Bill Nelson saying that footage that's been captured of them is interesting, and this has caused researchers to say that perhaps NASA will be making an announcement in the coming years. Each year, thousands of reports are made, and although the majority of these can be explained as things such as planes, helicopters, wildlife and natural phenomena, there's many of these aircrafts that don't fit these descriptions, and when United States officials are coming forward and saying that some of these are a national security issue, it's caused some to take these sightings more seriously. As of right now, we can only hope that further investigations are carried out and the evidence is released to the general public. The Dogon people, an indigenous tribe of Mali in West Africa, have a rich cultural heritage and a deep knowledge of astronomy, including the star system Sirius. The Dogon have an oral tradition that dates back thousands of years, and they have been studying the night sky for generations. According to their oral tradition, the Dogon learned about Sirius from beings known as the Nomos, who they believe came to Earth from the Sirius star system. The Nomos are said to have taught the Dogon about the Sirius star system, including its complex orbit and the existence of a third star, Sirius B, which is invisible to the naked eye. The accuracy of the Dogon's knowledge of Sirius has been the subject of much debate among scholars, with some arguing that it's evidence of extraterrestrial contact, while others attribute it to the Dogon's own observations and astronomical knowledge. Some have also suggested that the Dogon's knowledge of Sirius may have been influenced by contact with European astronomers in the 19th and 20th centuries. Regardless of the source of their knowledge, the Dogon's understanding of the Sirius system is impressive and reflects their deep connection to the natural world and the cosmos. Even Harvard University came forward and said that the tribe's claims were impressive. They said the following on their website. The cause of all the commotion was the claim that the Dogon believed that Sirius has a dark, invisible companion with a 50-year orbit. The companion is very heavy and made of a special metal which is not found on Earth. This is an accurate description of our knowledge of Sirius B after it was observed with powerful telescopes and described by scientists using the theories of quantum mechanics and relativity. End quote. Another scientist detailed that the Dogon tribe isn't just educated on Sirius, but said that they detailed impressive knowledge about planets within our solar system, stating that they knew that Jupiter had various moons and that Saturn has rings made up of space debris. They also agreed that the tribe's knowledge of Sirius is impressive and that many of the details they gave matches recent discoveries. As mentioned, various theories have been put forward for why the tribe has this knowledge, but scholars have said that further research is needed in order to come to a conclusive answer.
A mysterious giant blinking object has been detected near our galaxy's center. Nothing is more mysterious and unreachable than space. Despite decades of intensive study and research, scientists have only explored about 4% of the visible universe. An estimated 25,000 light-years from Earth, astronomers have found a star that appeared to blink out of existence for several months before suddenly reappearing. This unique star was affectionately named VVV-WIT-08 that is thought to belong to a completely new class of stars altogether. This newly discovered star type is unexplainably enormous, reportedly 100 times the size of our Sun, while the blinking is thought to be caused by an unknown orbiting body that eclipses the star once every few decades. The name of the star appears to be a highly scientific smash-up of important letters. WIT actually stands for, "What is this?" The case of VVV-WIT-08 has baffled astronomers. Not only is this star the first of its kind, but no one can explain what exactly could be eclipsing it from sight. The most prominent theory is that this orbiting object could be a planet or even another star, surrounded by a thick, opaque disk of dust locked in an orbit around VVV-WIT-08. This theory is supported by the discovery of a few other giant stars that disappear for months or even years at a time. The most famous example is Epsilon Aurigae, a supergiant star that is nearly eclipsed for up to 730 days at a time, and another giant star known as TYC 25056721 is regularly eclipsed for a whopping 3.5 years. There are certainly more to be found, but the challenge now is in figuring out what the hidden companions are and how they came to be surrounded by disks, despite orbiting so far from the giant star, said astronomer Lee Smith of the University of Cambridge. In doing so, we might learn something new about how these kinds of systems evolve. Astronomers find 7 dwarf galaxy groups. Dwarf galaxies are small bundles of stars containing between 1,000 and up to several billion stars. This might sound like a lot, but our own Milky Way galaxy has between 200 and 400 billion stars in it alone. This can make these dwarf galaxies up to 1,000 times smaller than our own galaxy. Researchers have never had too much evidence for this theory, though it is often believed that galaxies are formed when dwarf galaxies merge together. This was until 2017, when a research paper was published giving us some more evidence to back up these claims. Data was collected from the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, alongside a handful of optical telescopes. This allowed a team of astronomers to begin their research, a process that began with the observation of 7 individual, distinctly separate groups of dwarf galaxies. The team noted that the conditions of these dwarf galaxies were perfect to observe and see if they could in fact merge, morphing into one larger galaxy, with the possibility of a spiral galaxy like our Milky Way also being considered. This research could give us substantial evidence to support our claims that what we consider mature galaxies today were once much smaller galaxies billions and billions of years ago. Sabrina Stierwalt, an astronomer with the National Radio Astronomy Observatory and the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, explained that we know the universe needs to bring small galaxies together to form a bigger one, but that up until now we could not prove it or show how it happened. She continued to say, "For the first time, we have found examples of the first steps in this process, entire populations of dwarf galaxies that are all bound together in the same general neighborhoods." The team analyzed the data gathered from the SDSS in excruciating detail, looking for dwarf galaxies that looked as though they could be interacting with one another. The team were keeping their eyes peeled for pairs that could be part of bigger assemblies of alike galaxies. Further research was then conducted to put these images into perspective, with the Magellan Telescope in Chile, the Apache Point Observatory in New Mexico, and the Gemini Telescope in Hawaii being used to check that these dwarf galaxies are similar distances from Earth, not just aligned, as this could suggest that they are gravitationally bound together. It is hoped that this study provides some more data for future research groups studying groups of dwarf galaxies. This can offer a glimpse into how galaxies are formed and possibly help people to predict future formation patterns. Astronomers have discovered a nearby super-Earth in the habitable zone. The possibility of a habitable planet out there in our universe, or any universe, is an intriguing notion for many people. Would there be life already on the planet? Could humans emigrate there to live if necessary? it is human nature to want to know we are not alone. Astronomers in Hawaii have recently discovered a new super-Earth using the National Observatory of Japan's Subaru telescope. The planet, named Ross 508b, orbits a red dwarf named Ross 508. Before we get too much further, let's go over a few key things. First off, what is a super-Earth? Super-Earth does not mean the makeup of a planet is better than Earth. It is a classification of planets not in our solar system that are heavier than Earth and lighter than Neptune and Uranus. A super-Earth can be between 2 and 10 times the size of Earth. A red dwarf is the most common star in the galaxy. It's small, as its name suggests, and not as hot as the other stars. What makes the combination of Ross 508 and Ross 508b newsworthy? They are only 36.5 light-years away. Ross 508b is a planet 4 times the size of Earth, and considering what we already know about the mass limit of planets, it's likely a terrestrial planet, meaning its surface is rocky and not formed of gases. It's also in the habitable zone, but this does not mean it can necessarily support life. The habitable zone refers to the distance from its orbital star, therefore creating the correct temperature to have liquid water present on the surface of the super-Earth planet. If Ross 508b cannot support life for certain, why is there so much buzz about it? Finding a little planet orbiting a dim star is no small feat. The discovery of Ross 508b shows off the success of the technique and tools used to search for exoplanets. This means we could be a few steps closer to finding an Earth 2.0, just in case this one doesn't pan out for our species.
Scientists have always looked up to the sky with hope. With each new discovery that's made, it helps us to understand our place in the universe and whether we are part of something much bigger. With the billions of galaxies and over 700 quintillion planets that reside within the universe, the chance of there being life outside of Earth seems very high. The planets that we are looking to are Mars and Venus, along with moons such as Enceladus and Europa, which orbit Jupiter and Saturn. Going back, NASA's then chief scientist Ellen Stofan claimed that by 2025, scientists will most likely discover prominent signs of life somewhere in the universe, saying that all of the data that NASA have gathered point towards us making a big discovery sometime in the near future. This announcement was made while she was speaking at a panel discussion, which heavily focused on NASA's search for habitable worlds. John Grunsfeld, who's a physicist and astronaut, carried on with the following. I think we're 1 generation away in our solar system, whether it's on an icy moon or on Mars, and 1 generation away on a planet around a nearby star. End quote.
Europa has volcanoes on the floor of its subsurface ocean. Although Jupiter's icy moon Europa might not look like much on the surface, it is a source of great interest to astronomers studying space in general, as well as the potential for life outside of Earth. One of the prevailing reasons for this interest is the fact that Europa's unique surface is the smoothest surface of any known object in the solar system, and, with a salty subsurface ocean beneath, many believe it could also potentially harbour some form of life within its waters. Because of this, astronomers have carefully studied all elements of the unique planet in detail so that they could gather a better understanding of what the contents likely look like, and one of the newest of these revelations is quite interesting. Recently published study results demonstrated, through 3D modelling, the most detailed study of the internal heating system and its effects on the icy surface that has been completed to date. The study showed how the core of the moon may produce enough heat to partially melt the rocky inner layer, just enough to create subsurface volcanoes, further validating decades-long speculation regarding volcanic activity on Europa. Whereas other moons, such as Jupiter's neighbouring moon Io, are highly volcanic with obvious activity, Europa's volcanoes, if they exist at all, have been much harder to pin down until now. The study details in great depth the flow of heat through the rocky area of the inner surface, as well as how the pull of Jupiter's gravity, which is much weaker on Europa than Io, likely helps to stoke these fires on the sea floor below the ocean, especially in areas near the poles where there is more heat generated. The team proposed that this volcanic activity has been continuing through the lifespan of Europa and will likely continue to do so, albeit in a much weaker capacity, as the interior cools throughout the course of time. In Europa's case, a long-maintained volcanic seafloor slowly warming and circulating the ocean across the surface astronomically increases the opportunity for the development of extraterrestrial lifeforms. One of the researchers who published the study, Dr. Behunkova, said that Europa is one of the rare planetary bodies that might have maintained volcanic activity over billions of years, and possibly the only one beyond Earth that has large water reservoirs and a long-lived source of energy. This certainly creates exciting possibilities for researchers attempting to uncover the mysteries of space, especially as they continue in the quest for extraterrestrial life. Hubble monitors weird dark vortex on Neptune. In 2018, scientists observed a strange phenomenon near Neptune using the NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope. It turned out to be a giant dark storm, measuring at 7,400 kilometers in diameter, hovering over the northern hemisphere of Neptune. Since then, the storm's movements have been tracked and analyzed, and for a while it followed expected paths, drifting south towards Neptune's equator at the start of 2020. At this point, scientists expected the vortex to vanish from sight. However, by August of 2020, they were shocked to find the vortex doubling back up north to where it had originated. The behavior is peculiar, as scientists have studied Neptune's vortexes and storms before, and therefore should be able to predict their movements with a degree of confidence. We know a lot about them. They are high-pressure systems which can form at any latitudes, and then typically migrate to the equator. They stay intact for so long as they journey down the planet due to the strong Coriolis force exerted in the northern hemisphere of Neptune. However, the Coriolis force weakens considerably the closer one gets to the equator, and therefore, once a storm hits this point, the external forces are no longer enough to keep it held together, and they disintegrate. It turns out the observed storm of 2018 to 2020 did not venture close enough to the equator to lose the strength of the Coriolis force, and thus stayed intact despite guesses made by simulated models. About the same time that this mysterious path change happened, a smaller vortex appeared near the original one, and then proceeded to disappear. It emerged from the side of the larger storm closest to the equator, which fits theories of the disruptive nature of the equatorial zone. Although, while a disruption to the larger vortex makes sense scientifically, the construction of a new one does not give it being located in an area severely lacking in Coriolis force. Explanations for the new smaller vortex are still disputed, with best theories suggesting that the larger vortex shed a piece of itself to redirect its path away from the equator. Given that this theory neatly explains two strange discoveries, it seems like a nice answer to things we otherwise cannot explain. And yet, we do not know for sure why things happen as they do, both in space, thousands of years ago, or in the deepest layer of the Earth. There is so much more to learn and discover about everything, and we are making headway every day. Weird nearby gamma-ray burst defies expectations. It seems that every time researchers think that they have nailed down how one aspect of space functions, an anomaly shows up and forces them to rethink everything that they thought they knew. Most recently, scientists were able to have front-row seats to an incredible gamma-ray burst captured by NASA's space observatories Fermi and Swift, and originating from the area of space near the Eridanus constellation in the southern hemisphere, a rather close 1 billion light-years away. The burst and its subsequent afterglow took place over several days, as scientists watched and carefully recorded the progress, eager to learn more about how gamma-ray bursts form and what happens in their wake. The only problem was that the burst did not seem to follow the typical rules that had been loosely laid down by previous occurrences. Due to the proximity of the spectacle, scientists observing from Earth were able to record much higher energy photons than are typically able to be observed in these instances, as the higher energy photons from farther away usually never reach Earth because they are instead absorbed in collisions with background light. Using mobilized gamma-ray telescopes to observe the 13-hour-long explosion, the research team was able to analyze these unusually high levels of photons, which revealed something very intriguing. Surprisingly, the analysis of the radiation emitted from the recent gamma-ray burst revealed a radiation pattern that was very similar to that of X-rays, a fact that was both shocking and one of the last things that astronomers would have expected, as the two instances are believed to be caused by entirely different phenomena and to cause two different types of radiation. Because they are so mysterious, nobody is quite sure exactly how gamma-ray bursts are formed. Some think that they are caused when massive stars up to 10 times the size of the Sun explode, leaving behind equally mysterious black holes in their wake. Still, others hypothesize that they are generated through the collision of two neutron stars, which also has been shown to cause a black hole. The recent analysis of the properties of these high-powered gamma rays has forced researchers to consider whether they might have been wrong about the provenance of these mysterious bursts altogether, and many researchers have gone back to the drawing board to attempt to discover why such different phenomena as gamma rays and X-rays would have such similar signatures. One of the reasons why research in this area is so limited and full of guesswork is due to the fact that only 4 gamma-ray bursts have been able to be captured from Earth, leaving astronomers to attempt to discern patterns from a rather small dataset. Luckily, scientists are hopeful that recent advances in space viewing technology and instruments will assist in closing this gap, providing more observational data to support current hypotheses and help to solve the mystery of gamma-ray bursts once and for all. NASA spacecraft just saw the North Pole of Europa. Jupiter has 79 moons, putting Earth's measly one to shame, and with so many moons, it is unsurprising that there is a great deal we do not yet know about them. NASA are on it though. With their spacecraft Juno being sent to orbit Jupiter, plenty of insights are being frequently sent back to us here on Earth. The most recent of which tells us a little more about Europa, Jupiter's icy moon. Up until now, we have not seen all of Europa, with no photos being taken from a distance and no sightings of the North Pole region. This camera-shy moon has finally been captured by Juno, and the results are more exciting than we had guessed. Europa's icy North Pole seems to have water vapor that looks as though it is rising out of the moon in plumes, suggesting the oceans of this planet could have conditions that could be home to life. Looking for signs of life in space, especially within our own solar system, is a thrilling aspect of astronomical research. Up until now, a great deal of research in our own solar system has looked at how the conditions on Mars could have once supported life, though now it seems Europa could be a new contender. Admittedly, the photo quality from Juno is poor in the images received so far. With a distance of 50,000 miles between the spacecraft and the Moon, the resolution is not spectacular. However, next year, Juno is due to travel just a few hundred miles above the same spot of Europa, giving us a great opportunity to look forward to just on the horizon. Scott Bolton, the Juno principal investigator and director of the Space Science and Engineering Division of the Southwest Research Institute, described this as a tantalizing example and a taste of what's to come. The advancements we can see just around the corner continue to be just as thrilling as ever. Hopefully more questions and information will be coming our way shortly. Whether we find one more piece of information in a wider piece of research, or we are uncovering some answers to big questions, science is fascinating and the research is never complete. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.